Language is a method for communication, thought to be unique to humans. Language has constantly evolved among centuries and even generations, with the rise of new slang and the need for others to maintain the relevance of ancient languages. In the broad sense, language has evolved from simple hand motions to sounds to fully generated languages, which include their own alphabets and accents. When examining the origin or evolution of something, the goal is to trace back to its roots and follow its evolutionary path. However, this is a major problem when looking at language because we have no idea where it came from or how it evolved. So at this point, it is essentially only theory. There are three possible theories for the origin or evolution of language. The first theory being that there was a proto-world, meaning that everyone spoke the same language at the same time and all languages descended from that language. For example, one large group of people spoke the same language, and from then on, groups of people moved into different regions, which eventually led to each group continuously adding variation to the language to the point where everyone who spoke the same language can no longer understand each other. The second theory is that this proto-world partially existed, meaning that language was a form of different tones and grunts that had different meanings. From then on, it was possible that language evolved from these pre-languages. The third theory is that this proto-world didn't exist at all, so maybe different languages evolved independently, and modern language developed from all of those combined. Or did genetic mutations allow for humans to speak, and from there, language was invented multiple times in different parts of the world? Now the questions arrive on how we evolved the ability to speak. Did we start speaking immediately after we evolved the ability to speak, or did it take a while? Did we use sign language to communicate before we evolved the organs necessary to vocalize? Did we evolve the physical capacity to speak followed by the brain capacity to use language, or was it the other way around? Roughly 150,000 years ago, a physiological change occurred. The position of the larynx shifted lower into the throat. This shift in position allowed for more pronounced vowel and speech sounds. It has been suggested that Neanderthals may have had some form of language, but it may have failed to extend because they lacked a physical apparatus for producing more complex sounds. However, the lower position of the larynx in the throat makes humans much more susceptible to choking than any other mammal. This makes this adaptation very strange and counterintuitive and would have no other reason to evolve in such a way unless it was meant for some selective advantage. Since the larynx contains the vocal cords and is our main organ for speech, it would seem as though it had evolved for a potential speaking purpose. Before the development of speech, there must have been a desire to communicate. The use of hand signals and facial expressions allowed for communication among individuals to display their intended actions or feelings. These motions may have been easily understood due to mirror cells. Neurophysiologist Giacomo Rizzolotti discovered a cell type area called F5 that could respond to a precise hand or mouth movement performed by another animal. For example, a neuron may respond when the experimenter turns his hand clockwise or obtains a resource. No other motion caused the cell to fire. It might also fire, however, if the monkey itself performs a similar movement or obtains a resource. For this reason, these neurons are known as mirror cells. The functionality of mirror cells may be a process for how infants learn language with such accuracy within the first year. By tracking signals, sounds, or facial expressions, mirror cells may be a major evolutionary change in the way our brains react to communication and language. The evolution from the use of physical forms of communication, such as hand signals, to those with a verbal basis, has become essential for transmitting language. The FOXP2 gene, identified but not yet named until the 1990s, was thought to be vital in production of speech. When the FOXP2 gene was discovered, it was believed to be crucial in the learning process, and as such in the control of proper speech production and understanding, an essential component to learning new languages. The FOXP2 gene is well conserved in mammals, specifically humans, and its allelic properties are similar to those of Neanderthals. While other mammal species express a gene relatively identical to the FOXP2 gene, in humans the structure of this gene is believed to be the cause of vocal superiority and understanding. The substitution of two amino acids, threonine and asparagine, with regards to the development of the FOXP2 gene differentiates the development of language in humans versus chimps and is a possible explanation for our ability to comprehend and express the more complex aspects of language as a whole. Within species, it is clear that brain size correlates with a greater potential for behavioral learning. Therefore, in humans, there must be connection between language evolution and brain evolution. The first in a genus known as Homo evolved 1.9 million years ago and saw a slight expansion in the Broca's area of the brain, which is part of the frontal lobe associated with language. The neocortex of the brain appears to be the most recent evolutionary addition to contribute to human language development. In humans, the neocortex makes over 80% of the brain, and it is important for more adaptive and complex cognitive abilities. Overall, it is clear that there are physical evolutionary changes in humans with regard to the vocalization of speech and communication. The changes have allowed language to develop from rudimentary sounds and signs to the complex and detailed system that it is in today's age. However, we are still uncertain in determining where language truly originated and how it could have evolved because as time passes, our languages will become more sophisticated and complex, making it even more difficult to trace back to its roots.